Let's configure TP-Link EAP110 Outdoor. So in this video, configure TP-Link EAP110 Outdoor. So we will look into the device specifications. We'll go through its features and we'll have some menu walkthrough once we're able to log in to that particular device. After that, we'll have some configuration. We have some wizard and we have some configuration changes on our EAP110 outdoor device. So this is the physical appearance of our TP-Link EAP110 outdoor. So you have some front view and back view appearance. So courtesy from www.tp-link.com. For the device specifications for our TP-Link EAP110 outdoor, it has one fast Ethernet interface. For wireless standards, it supports 802.11bgn, so it has no AC support. For antenna, so you have two 3 dBi external Omni waterproof antennas. It operates at only 2.4 GHz wireless frequency, so there is no 5 GHz support. For transmit power, so the recommended is less than or equal to 330 dBm. And you have the weatherproof enclosure IP65, so that makes our TP-Link EAP outdoor capable. For our TP-Link EAP110 outdoor features, so there are some features listed here. For a complete list of features of this particular device, please visit the TP-Link official website. So it could support up to 8 SSIDs or 8 Wi-Fi names. You could control how much transmit power you are emitting to this particular wireless radio. You have some quality of service or Wi-Fi multimedia support. You could perform some rate limit, so you could limit the upload and download for that particular SSID. You have some form of wireless isolation between clients. You have some rogue AP detection, and your 8 SSIDs could be mapped to several VLANs or to certain VLAN or to a one-to-one VLAN. For example, the Wi-Fi name will be mapped to VLAN number 10, for example. Alright, let's try to configure our TP-Link EAP110 outdoor. So we can administer or access the TP-Link EAP110 administration page by using a browser. So let me maximize this. So to access, the default IP is 192.168.0.254, and this is now the login page of our TP-Link EAP110 outdoor. So the default username is admin, small caps, and password will also be admin. So let's try to log in on our device. So the username is admin, the password is also admin. So if we want to show the password, so we'll click on login. Okay, so the wizard will actually ask us to type in a new username and new password. So for example, we will change it to Inquirinity, and the password will be 1234567 8. Of course, this is a demonstration purposes. The password strength is low. Of course, you need to type a strong password, but for this demonstration, let's just stick with 1234567 8. Okay, so confirm the password and click next. Okay, so let me clarify. So you could check the I have connected to your wireless new network by clicking this and click finish. Okay, although actually you haven't tested your new wireless network, so you could check this one. I have connected to the new wireless network. and click finish. So let me click the finish button to exit or to complete this wizard by TP-Link. So we'll click on finish. There you go. We have exited on our wizard and we are now at the TP-Link menus wherein we can further configure our wireless device. So we have four menus. We have status, we have wireless, we have management, and we have system. So under the status, you have the device, the wireless, and the client submenus. So under the device submenu, you will see the device information. So you'll see the device name, device model, what is your current firmware version and hardware version. So this will be helpful if you want to upgrade and look for the proper firmware but looking on the hardware version. So you have the MAC address, the current IP address, subnet mask. As you can see, it has 100 Mbps. So the LAN port is operating at fast Ethernet. So the current time, the uptime, the current CPU utilization, and the memory utilization of the device. Next submenu is the wireless submenu. So you have the SSID listing, so service set identifier. So this lists all the current SSID that is configured on this wireless access point. So currently you have only one in Quirinity. So currently on this particular band, with the security of WPA-PSK, the captive portal is disabled, there is no VLAN ID, and there is no guest network for this particular SSID. So there are no clients. As you can see, there are no down and up traffic. So if you go scroll below, you will see the current radio settings. Okay, so the max TX rate and the TX power, as well as the current traffic. Next submenu is the client submenu. So this lists all the current clients that are connected to this access point or to their respective SSID. But as the previous submenu, it has no clients on that particular SSID in Trinity Wi-Fi. So if you go to the client submenu, there are no current users. And obviously, you don't have also current guests on this particular SSID or this particular access point. The next menu, and by far the most important menu among all the menus available in TP-Link, is the wireless menu. So it contains the bulk of the settings that we can configure in our wireless access point. So you have the wireless settings, you have the portal, you have the VLAN, you have the MAC filtering scheduler, quality of service, and rogue AP detection submenus. Let's check on the wireless settings submenu. So at first glance, you could enable or disable the wireless radio itself. If you scroll below, you will see all the listed SSIDs. Of course, we have only one SSID, which is Inquirinity Wi-Fi. You could choose to edit this particular SSID. For instance, you want to disable the SSID broadcast. You could change the security mode. However, there is no WPA2 for this model. Okay, you could change the encryption to TKIP or advanced encryption standard. You could update the password. You could also enable the guest network and rate limit for this particular SSID. Okay, so we'll click cancel on this one. So if you go below, you have more advanced settings. So you have a choice for the wireless mode, if what particular mode you want to operate only. So to provide some backward compatibility, you might choose the mixed channel width. Okay, so you have the 20 megahertz and 40 megahertz channel width. You can choose the appropriate channel. Okay, so of course you have to perform some wireless site survey on what is the appropriate channel that has least interference. You can also edit the transmit power. So one of the features for this particular device is you could change the values of your transmit power. So of course, any settings that are changed, you should click the save for it to be applied. You could also add more SSIDs for this particular access point. So click add, and as you can see, you can enter a new SSID. So for instance, we will type in Inquirinity Wi-Fi 2 for our demonstration purposes. Security mode, we'll select the WPA-PSK. Okay, so we'll select auto, or we'll not leave the default one. Wireless password will still be 1234567 8. Okay, so let's check for rate limit, for instance. Okay, we can set the download limit. For instance, we will put in 5 Mbps. The upload limit is 5 Mbps. Okay, so we can add new SSID and configure, for instance, the rate limit which is not available under the wizard. Click OK to confirm the additional SSID. So more on this wireless settings submenu. So there is also load balance under the wireless advanced settings, wherein you can click on this one and click enable, and you could enter the maximum associated clients. For instance, you will only put in from 1 to 99, so you would expect perhaps 15 associated clients or connected clients, and it will do a load balance. So whatever algorithm or programming is inside for this TP-Link, it will do some form of load balance for this maximum associated clients. So then again, you will click save after you made some changes under the load balance option. Let's have a quick look in the portal submenu. So portal configuration. So this TP-Link EAP110 has a captive portal feature, wherein you could have a captive portal for all of your SSIDs or selected SSIDs. So as you can see, it lists all the available SSIDs. Okay, from there, once you select a certain SSID, or I could choose all the SSID, but for our demonstration, let me select just the Inquirinity Wi-Fi. You could select a particular authentication. So no authentication, local password, wherein you will supply the local password, or of course, for more user control, you'll have your external radius server, and you'll supply the correct IP and what is the radius port and any other radius parameters such as radius password and NAS ID. And if you will enable the radius accounting, you could also supply any redirect URL. So for this captive portal to redirect to that particular URL, so you'll enable the redirect and type in that particular redirect URL. You could also use this simple local web portal customization. So you could type in your company name, for example, we'll type in Inquirinity Corporation, or you could key in the external web portal URL. So if you have your fancy web portal already done in HTML, CSS, or whatever web language that you have, and just select the external web portal and key in the web portal URL. As always, click Save to apply the settings changes. Next submenu is VLAN. So it will list all your SSID and what particular VLAN that they are assigned to. So there is VLAN support. So of course you will select enable to activate VLANs for this particular SSID. So for instance, this is on VLAN 10 and you have on Inquirinity Wi-Fi, this will be on VLAN 20. Okay, so you could have more SSID and more SSIDs assigned to a particular VLAN. So we have SSID to VLAN mapping feature. So you click Save to apply the settings changes. Next is MAC filtering. So we'll click on that particular submenu. So you'll have some layer 2 filtering or restrictions or rules. So enable MAC filtering. So before you could apply some MAC filtering on that particular SSID, you will need to create some MAC group name. So if you go back or scroll back, you could create a group, okay, station MAC group. However, you will also need to create some group member. For instance, you have the add group member. Okay, so we have add group. So we have the group name. So we'll have the group name as inquirinity inq deny. Okay, click OK. And under here, you'll have a group member. So let's say the MAC address is AA separated by dashes. So BB, CC, DD, EE, FF. Okay, for example, our fictitious MAC address. So click OK. So this is now the group member for that particular group name. So now you could associate this particular group name to this particular SSID. For instance, under Inquirinity Wi-Fi, you are denying this particular MAC address. So with the action deny. Okay, so you have some notes here that deny blocks access from the stations in the MAC group list. So you obviously you could also create more add a group, more group name to also apply a different grouping on the other SSIDs and add a group member for that particular group name. Okay, let's check the scheduler sub menu. So we'll have a clue that it has anything to do with schedule. So schedule, click enable. So associated with SSID or associated with AP. So we'll have some association of that particular schedule. So for us, we'll select the SSID. So we have some SSID listing here and what profile name at what particular action, whether we turn on or we off the radio. So for instance, we'll create some profile. Okay, so we'll add a profile. So let's say turn off at midnight. Okay, so let's have some sample profile or some sample profile name. So under this particular profile, let's add an item. So let's say every day. Okay, so we'll select the start time. So we have some options here. So let's say start time is from 000, then end time is, let's say, for few minutes only. So let's say 5 minutes. The SSID will be turned off. Okay, so let's click OK. So now you have the turn off at midnight and you have some particular start time and end time. So now we could apply that particular profile, turn off at midnight, and select radio off. So this particular SSID will be gone momentarily at that particular start time and end time. So click on save. Then finally, you have the quality of service. So it has some populated values already. So this is the Wi-Fi multimedia. So unless you know what you're doing, okay, you can change the values here, but we can leave it as default. We can also go to rogue AP detection as you will apply this or install this AP in the production environment. Okay, it will have some detection on the rogue AP and there are some trusted AP list. You could download that particular list to your PC or you have some AP to PC scenario. Okay, So you could save that or some source file if you have some source file and to apply to this particular settings. Okay, so more on this in our future videos. Next, we go to management menu. So you have several sub-menus under the management menu. You have network, system log, web server, management access, LED control, SSH, SNMP. So under the network submenu, you could stay put with this configuration with the 192.168.0.254, or you'll have some static IP wherein you could key in your prescribed or what is the assigned IP address and gateway and DNS parameters for this particular access point. Next, we have the system log. So this is the local log of this particular TP-Link. So under the log settings, if you scroll below, you could also enable auto mail. So obviously under network, this should have some form of connection to the internet and DNS resolution. So in order for this to work, to enable some auto mail, so we'll connect to a valid SMTP server and that particular port. And obviously you have to key in your email addresses for this enable auto mail to work. You can also enable a syslog server. So if you have some system log server or syslog server, please do so and type it here on the log server IP. You can change the web server parameters or the kind of port that you will use in order to access this access point. So currently it is on the standard default 443 or 80, but you could also change it to a different port numbers. Next is the management access. So you'll have some form of MAC authentication. So meaning to say you will only allow certain MAC address to manage this AP or EAP110. So you'll enable and supply in your MAC addresses. You have some also management VLAN. So for instance, you are implementing VLAN on your SSIDs and you on your management, you'll have some management VLAN as well. So you could enable this and type in your management VLAN. For instance, it's 99 and you could click save. So but careful, okay, once you enable this, okay, there might be a chance that you could not access this particular access point. So make sure you have your VLAN configuration on your other device end to end configured properly, or else you will not be able to access this TP-Link device. Then you have some LED controls. So basically, if you want some change on the whether the LED will be off or on, so you could enable that one or disable. You could also locate that particular access point or this EAP if you have quite a number of EAP in your environment. So you could click this locate and actually it will blink on the particular EAP. Okay, so you can carefully identify or physically identify which EAP you are configuring or administering to. Then you have SSH, so you could also manage this particular TP-Link via SSH client. So for security reasons, you could also change the current default TCP port number 22. So you'll also have some SSH login and you can click on the save. You have also some simple network management protocol support SNMP. You'll enable some agent and particular community name and some IP address for your agent. Then last but not the least, the system menu. So you have some user account, time settings, reboot, reset, backup and restore, and firmware update submenus. So under user account, you could change the current username by typing in the old username and supplying a new username and password as well. So you'll have still the complexity settings, whether your password is on a strong side. So next is time settings. So depends on your time zone, you'll set it properly, or you have your network time protocol server, so you'll key in the corresponding IP addresses. You could reboot and reset the device via software to reset to factory defaults. So I should suggest you use the reboot rather than removing the power or the PoE connection. So next is backup and restore. So there is this backup for us to save the current configuration for future restoration of this particular access point. And if you have some ready backup, you could restore it as well. And you have the firmware update. So make sure you go to TP-Link website to be updated if there are firmware updates for this particular model or hardware revision. So that is why this firmware version and hardware version becomes important, because once you find the appropriate firmware update for your device, you will need those information. So once you have your firmware, so make sure it is downloaded correctly. So click browse and look into that particular firmware. Obviously, you'll have some notes here that please do not power off the devices. So make sure it has uninterrupted power. And obviously, you need to understand that any firmware changes requires reboot. So meaning to say access will be lost momentarily until the firmware update will become successful. So in this video, configure TP-Link EAP110 outdoor. So first we go through the specifications and the features for this particular model. We then log in to our device, go through the wizard, and go through the menus wherein we could further manage or administer or configure our wireless TP-Link EAP110. So we then show you some configuration in adding some SSIDs, as well as perform some rate limit, load balance, and other parameters such as Vlan. So in our future videos, we hope to create more specific TP-Link EAP110 feature and focus on that. So with that, thank you for watching.